What's up, people of the Mojave Wasteland? Welcome to the end of 2024 special here on Midlothian Odyssey, where we'll try and beat Fallout New Vegas as Benny on hardcore mode as usual. Now, I'm sure you're thinking that we just start off in Goodsprings under the guise of having successfully killed Courier 6, but nah. We'll go ahead and set the scene real fast. I know, I usually save the best part of the intro for last, but there actually isn't a whole lot to set up. You see, Courier 6 was alive until they tracked Benny to the tops. Just in this alternate timeline, Benny is the one who emerged victorious. Our favorite delivery dudette didn't realize that the game was, in fact, rigged from the start. So the first act of this run's story will be told in a bit of a flashback, but that doesn't mean that everything went the same as normal for our protagonist either. I'll finish touching up on scene setting here in a sec, just want to get our gear, special, and tag skills out of the way. In combat, we can only use Benny's suit and Maria. Definitely great for the early game, and Maria is still kind of viable in the mid game. Our suit, though, yeah, 1 DT, but at least we get a boost to speech and barter. Special allocation is on the screen, although I don't quite agree with Benny having only 3 charisma. This seems a little inaccurate, but hey, it's what we got. And I did end up buying the intelligence implant to boost our intelligence to 4. I figure we're a bit too far along to grab educated like we normally do, but comprehension will still serve a purpose. Perks we took up to this point are rapid reload at level 2, run and gun at 4, bloody mess for the 5% damage boost. We took this at level 6. Comprehension we took at level 8, as I got the implant when I hit level 7. And here's our tag skills. You could say we got the short end of the stick on this one. Guns is great for us, but melee weapons and unarmed are duds, although they do fit very well with Benny's character, particularly his backstory when the chairmen were just another tribe in the Mojave Wasteland before being recruited by Robert House. Having changed things up a little bit, let's take a dive back into past events to uncover how Courier 6 and Benny's paths crossed for one final time. Doc Mitch fixed up Courier 6 as usual, but should he have done that? See, in this version of events, Courier 6 isn't exactly the nicest person. Yeah, he wants revenge on Benny, but little does he realize that the two of them are cut from a similar cloth. As Courier 6 is anything we want them to be, in this timeline he's open to working with gangsters and asserting dominance over others. Having assisted Joe Cobb after learning very little from the settlers of Goodsprings on his would-be murderer's whereabouts, he sees more value in aiding the powder gangers. I actually love taking this route because if you take over Goodsprings and do everything in favor of the powder gangers, you've got a relatively safe passage on this part of the map. And yes, I realize we're using Maria here. Maybe Courier 6 has his own unique 9mm. Though this is meant to be a flashback, we are actually, of course, still playing as Benny from a game mechanic standpoint. It is his challenge run, after all. I just want to show what we did en route to the strip without flat-out skipping over everything as Benny would have up until betraying the great cons of Boulder City. Now, given the chance, I could actually see Benny siding with the powder gangers over Goodsprings. I mean, it's not like he has qualms about hiring raiders or other like-minded evil people, or that he cares about anybody outside of the strip. Plus, hey, that'd put them in his pocket, and they both do hate the NCR. And in order to otherwise maintain Benny's uninvolvement with the other areas en route to the strip, I also go through the Bison Steve, and this was a ton of fun. Though we have a better firearm than our enemies, they've got better ZT and far more variety in their weaponry. Now, we're not going to finish this quest so that our ending for Prim is as if Benny was never here. But not only is this place pretty easy, as it's meant to be the beginning dungeon, it's also super fun, and we can never have enough bottle caps or experience points. What we really want to watch for is the dynamite, because these convicts love tossing those around, and that's a one-way ticket to being crippled. Now, we do have doctor's bags, but I like to conserve them as much as I can. I'm already frugal enough with resources as is. But what was really cool about this particular trip to the Bison Steve for me? Well, that science minigame that I'm normally pretty bad at, I was able to clear it pretty fast this time. We need that key behind the locked door, as our lockpick is only 20 currently, and we'll want it at 30 at some point. If you've been here on the channel for a while, you'll probably know why, and I promise it will actually fit with the flow of Benny's story. The way we want to go about clearing this place is going Metal Gear style. One-on-one, the convicts are pretty easy, as we can overpower them fast, but I am concerned about their leader for a change. He does have an incinerator, and that deals big damage to light armored units, like us. One of my favorite parts about this dungeon is that when we do come here in challenge runs, which is in almost all of them, even if I rarely show it, the caps that we earn from loot here are a real shot in the arm for that credit check needed to access the strip for the first time, although Benny certainly does not need to pass that credit check. As we pot-shot our way through here, what I found absolutely hilarious was that while the leader was not only the only one left, He not only didn't hear our constant gunfire, but instead of coming after us with that dreaded incinerator, he decides that it's a way better idea to come after us with a tire iron where we're constantly blasting him. Great job, man. I can see why you were chosen to be the leader of this little band of now dead misfits. And speaking of dead, we'll go ahead and deal with Deputy Beagle. It turns out that Courier Six's merciless execution of this hostage did yield some manner of results. Beagle's holotape has just what he needs to learn where Benny went. So off to Novak he goes after we clear the entirety of Ivan Pa's ants. We might as well go to the Mojave Outpost as well, do the 2 side quests there, as well as restock, sell, and get some XP. After arriving in Novak, just like Benny, C6 has no interest in aiding Novak. You can skip Manny's side quest entirely by either killing him or reading the entry on his terminal, which puts the note in your Pip-Boy where you can present it to Swank as evidence regarding Benny's plans. I'm gonna hit up Repcon anyway just for some experience points, plus the GRA challenge, the same could be said of all religious weapons, is super easy to complete there. Oh, and Stealth Boys are there too. We like Stealth Boys. And this is the end of Courier Six's part in the story. Though it's not the end of the flashback because, well, Benny is about to hit up Boulder City, and where this diverges from the main timeline is that the NCR is quicker to corner the cons here. And now, rather than just up and ducking out here, Benny betrays the cons by acting as their victim. He tells Monroe that he was kidnapped by them and then managed to escape, and it doesn't take much convincing for the good lieutenant to buy his story. Wanting to ensure that Jessup and the cons cannot follow him, Benny decides to join in on the NCR's mission. He's not doing that to help them, of course, he hates the NCR. He's doing this to tie up a serious loose end. Unaware that a ruthless Courier 6 is hot on his trail, as far as our protagonist is concerned, this is the last loose end in need of tying up before entering the strip again. Little does the leader of the chairman know that taking the NCR side here just might have a certain benefit later on. Thanks to the NCR troopers taking the brunt of the hits, we can take out the con grunts with relative ease. Although we'll have to go and lure Jessup out in the open in order for the troopers to gun him down, which could be problematic as our quote-unquote armor is made of paper, and both Jessup and his goon have solid weapons not only for this point in the game, but especially against light armor. Or in our case, no armor, we're wearing a suit. As the last of the cons are being dealt with, Benny hardly realizes that every second counts as Courier 6 is in fact closing in. However, after Benny informs Monroe that the hostages have been freed and the cons are dealt with, he's able to elude the Courier's grasp, and not a moment too soon. Courier 6 does arrive on the scene, having just missed Benny, but he is still able to catch up with Monroe and learn what happened here in Boulder City. Monroe says just enough for Courier 6 to get clued in on where Benny is headed, and honestly, he probably could have figured that out on his own. Now, since in the main timeline Benny goes straight to the strip, that's what we're gonna do. But what happened that caused Benny to emerge victorious against Courier 6? Well, when Courier 6 arrived at the strip, rather than confronting Swank with evidence under the pretense that Swank might be in on Benny's little game, he instead opts to sneak in weapons, and he's able to do so. Nothing special or great, but enough to get the jump on our protagonist, and little did he realize that Benny had his guards in tow. Now, if you guys remember the 60 speech check needed to get Benny isolated from his guards when you do a normal playthrough, our courier, again not too dissimilar from Benny, is actually able to convince him, where they meet up in Benny's room on the 13th floor. Unfortunately, Benny is the quicker draw of the two, and disposed of they who would have otherwise been the protagonist. Now, this does put a huge dent not only in House's plans, but in the NCR and Kaiser's as well. Legion spies, including Wolpez, saw Courier 6 enter the strip, but he never emerged. Benny did. And no, Wolpez is not going to give Benny the mark of Kaiser because Benny, to Kaiser, is nothing special, and saying that is being extremely generous. House, however, is compromised and realizes that if he wants the Platinum chip back, he has to act now. Left with no alternative, as Courier 6 is dead, House decides to call upon Benny for a meeting, if you will. It's time they met face to face. Remember, House knows that Benny is trying to usurp him, but is acting none the wiser to lull him into a false sense of security. He knows that Benny will have the Platinum chip on him, so all he has to do is get his Securitrons to gun him down, or one of his Securitrons can just obtain the Platinum chip. And while that still means that House would need an operative to gain access to Fortification Hill, at least he will have the Platinum chip, and that's a huge step forward. Unfortunately, House underestimates Benny, not his ruthlessness, but, well, Benny's in pretty darn good shape, I must say, and he is smarter than he realizes. Having a good feeling that this isn't going to be, say, an amicable meeting, Benny does come somewhat prepared. Noticing the Securitrons taking aim upon him as he enters the penthouse, he makes a mad dash for the terminal, and I gotta tell you, it's a darn good thing we popped that Med-X and buff out, because holy moly, you see how far down our health's gonna drop? No way in heck would we have survived the onslaught of bullets without buff out, and probably not the DR that comes with Med-X. House probably should have had Benny gunned down the moment he entered, but did want to lull him into a false sense of security. It wouldn't be House's first error in judgment. He was off, marginally, when it came to predicting the arrival of the Platinum chip, and between that as well as having a very high opinion of himself, earned though it may be, I think it stands to reason that House would make this error. It also helps that Benny is the main character of the story, so he's got that good old plot armor that used to belong to Courier 6. Once inside, Benny lets House out of his little pod, and although he's quite surprised to see what House actually is, he can't help but be smug. While House condemns Benny, our protagonist responds by telling him that just because he saved Vegas doesn't mean he gets ownership rights over it. New Vegas will be independent not only of the NCR and Caesar's Legion, but also of Robert House himself. Now, since we never get to fully realize Benny's vision for New Vegas beyond independence, I do think that there were some things he would do to follow in House's footsteps to further develop his character a little bit. I think that he would want the Brotherhood gone for the same reasons as his now former mentor, and acquiring the Boomers as allies gives the Strip tremendous firepower and, unknown to him at this time, a good old case of death from above. The casinos, well, Benny wouldn't even be able to deal with them because he's the leader of the chairman. No way in hell would Nero, Big Sal, Mortimer, or Marjorie let Benny anywhere close to their inner workings, and Benny simply wouldn't have the resources or connections to infiltrate the Gamora or Ultralux. He's not exactly known for being loyal to his hirelings either. Our protagonist does make his way to Fortification Hill, but along the way he decides to pivot over to Hidden Valley first because, hey, might as well investigate, get a feel for the Brotherhood presence in the area, as Yes Man told him that sightings of paladins were last seen there. Unfortunately, Benny is detained, and realizing that they have a high-profile hostage, they're eager to get whatever information out of him that they can. Not only that, but they can use him as a means to deal with the NCR Ranger, and to McNamara's surprise, Benny does not clue in Ranger Dobson about the Brotherhood's bunker. Still, choosing to allow him to retain his equipment after returning from his task? Ooh, that's a dire mistake. See, Benny actually has some knowledge on how to be efficient with stealth boys. In the main story, if we as C6 choose not to kill Benny at the tops, he makes his way to Fortification Hill. The way he does so is by using stealth boys to bypass much of the Mojave's dangers. He swaps out a set of legionary armor, and is detected only because Benny's hair was gelled, and hair gel is certainly not in style at Caesar's Legion. His own vanity became his undoing, as Caesar says, but he still has to get there here in our little story here. So hey, when going through the Brotherhood and blowing up their bunker, he does put that stealth boy skill to use, so we could just say that here in this timeline he's still using stealth boys, but he decided to pop one here because, well, there's no way in heck he's taking out an entire Brotherhood chapter by himself. The BOS bunker goes up in smoke, but hey, Veronica gets to live this run. I figure that Benny, like Kellogg in his respective run, would not interact with any of the companions at all. Upon entering Fortification Hill, and our little hilarious practical joke of letting loose the barrels of radioactive waste upon Cottonwood Cove whilst remaining undetected, Benny is apprehended by Cursu Lucullus. Turns out that Kaiser has developed a mild interest in him, due to finding out via his spy network that Benny somehow outwitted the Brotherhood of Steel and also disposed of Mr. House back at the Strip. That's just enough to have him not killed on sight, or beaten within an inch of his life and tied up like he is in the main story. Kaiser tells Benny that he is his prisoner, much like he is in the main story, and if he wants his freedom, well, all he has to do is destroy whatever's in the Securitron bunker. Benny, obviously, does not want to do this, but keeps his mouth shut. One word from this tyrant, and his Praetorians will cut Benny down for his entertainment. See, this way, Kaiser not only removes a potential threat from the equation, but he relishes in crushing this young upstart's hopes and dreams, whatever they may be. If Benny does this, he gets a one-time pass out of Fortification Hill where he can return to New Vegas. This is basically Benny's version of the forgiveness mechanic, as Benny has not interacted at all with the Legion, but also Kaiser needs someone to go destroy the bunker and whatever's down there. Again, the only reason Kaiser is humoring this in this scenario is not only did Benny obliterate the Hidden Valley bunker, but Mr. House being taken out of the equation, yeah, that's going to set the Legion's plans forward a little bit. And here's where I make a little bit of a mistake. I usually have the science score needed to bypass security here, but between our fairly low intelligence as well as not having educated, I simply couldn't spare the skill points, so I was able to get science to 30. However, I forgot to grab a Programmer's Digest, so we're going to be fighting the Protectrons and the turrets. I'm okay with it though, I do relish the challenge and it feels a bit more immersive this way, I think. Now, the Protectrons aren't much to write home about, but the Mark 6 turrets are a whole different story. Individually, we can overpower them, but it's the 3 near the Platinum Chip Terminal are the ones I'm real worried about. We're frail enough as is. Oh, and the Protectrons routinely drop scrap metal, which we'll need for the boomers, so that's awesome. And as I thought, the Securitron bunker isn't too bad until we get to the final room. Fortunately, for the first Mark 6 turret, we're able to position ourselves just right, but it sure doesn't stop the other 2 from trying to fry our hides. Thankfully, we have some means of being able to take cover, and shutting the door will also give us a chance to heal up and use doctor's bags if need be without the threat of, laser fire. The final turret does a heck of a job shredding us, but thanks to hotkeyed healing and taking our time with this encounter, we are in fact able to make it to the terminal. It's right here where Benny installs the Platinum Chip and just thinks, to hell with it. If this is the hand I gotta play, then so be it. After seeing this army at his disposal, he's just gotta get back to New Vegas. He just has to get out of Fortification Hill, and well, turns out that Benny's still riding that 18k high of good luck because as he reports to Kaiser, Kaiser says that he felt the ground shake a while ago and takes that as a sign that the job was done, which admittedly does surprise the tyrant, as he didn't think that Benny would actually go through with it. Having no use for Benny, but honoring his end of the bargain because Benny actually did stick with it, seemingly, Kaiser sends our protagonist on his merry way. Benny just cannot believe this stroke of luck. Is he really not gonna go down there and check? Well, again, better not give Baldy any ideas. On his way out, he does manage to hear Kaiser telling Wolpez that he wishes to make contact with the boomers. No time for rest, Benny has to beat the Legion to the punch. Making our way over to the field shacks, which I actually did not uncover early this time, is a simple enough task since we are not yet hostile to the Legion, and we're currently accepted with the NCR. We do our usual looting the shack, making sure we grab the pressure cooker, since I still don't have a Programmer's Digest, though I could easily go back and get one. It's all good though, and here comes someone I think Benny would at least have a little bit of appreciation for. I mean, on this channel, we do too. That somebody is none other than George Boy. And although Benny is kind of tempted to hear George Boy's little offer, he ain't about to play his game. Judging by the way George Boy worded that, he's got some bottle caps on him, and Benny can just invest that in the top, so I'm gonna load Maria with a hollow point, a one-shot sneak attack, and it's done. The variety of Georgie Boy deaths continues here on this channel. Now, for those of you who are new, just know that the reason why I killed Georgie Boy here is because he has 427 bottle caps. In my New Vegas Faction Warriors runs, that is absolutely essential for our routing, because 427 bottle caps is just a little bit over a fifth of what you need to pass the credit check at the strip's entrance. Man, speaking of gaining entrance somewhere, as we make our way through the Boomer's little artillery strike here, Benny gets absolutely destroyed. We don't die here, thankfully. But this is by far the most roughed up we've gotten in quite a while. I mean, what was that, 3 limbs that were crippled? We're running pretty low on doctor's bags, too. And now, because we almost always help the Boomers, I think Gary's run was the only one where we didn't. And Benny does help them raise the bomber. Some of Mr. House's lessons did stick with this fella. And because we are accepted with the NCR, Benny actually gets an invitation to come help protect President Kimball, something he would initially refuse, and maybe before getting Yes Man installed, he would have just never even humored it. However, Yes Man is able to convince Benny of this because Yes Man, according to the data he gets from Mr. House, stresses that it's absolutely pivotal that they make sure that President Kimball is protected, and Yes Man hasn't led him astray yet, so Benny begrudgingly does go, and if nothing else, it gives him a chance to flex over the NCR. And it could also win some favor for him on the strip. And this quest is pretty darn easy, but we don't have the skill checks to disarm the bomb, so I instead pickpocket the redundant failsafe detonator off of that Frumentari disguised as an engineer. And once President Kimball is safe and sound, we're going to go straight on over to Eldorado substation. I made sure to grab the NCR engineer jumpsuit before going there. You slap on the disguise, and then the NCR troopers inside will not attack you as they see you as a member of the NCR, but they all popped outside the second we popped the jumpsuit on, so that was pretty funny. And funny enough, I do think that's in character because, again, in the main story, he does don a Legion disguise and almost gets away with it. But here in this timeline, he does get away with it because hair gel is perfectly acceptable in the culture of the New California Republic. And just like that, we are already at Hoover Dam. Oh yeah. As usual, we deal with the Great Cons first. No Great Con Toughness increased mod this time around. But I have that and credit for all other mods I use in the description below. You may have noticed me passing by some alcohol in our Pit-Boy that we technically don't have. Yeah, that mod is called Better Booze. One of the first mods I ever used, and a mod I absolutely love because it makes alcohol in this game actually kind of interesting to use. And gotta say, too, an absolutely amazing start here at Hoover Dam with our Securitron Mark II doing most of the work for us, the Benny way. Let's head on inside, and because Benny would know Colonel Moore's name between being at Hoover Dam and the name coming up when Yes Man is debriefing him in the command room, he's able to talk down these heavy troopers, and he can go ahead and install the override ship. Oh, we got a couple of prime legionaries to kill here. Oh, man. I love Bloody Mess so much. Now, once we flip this switch here, because the boomers have bombed the crap out of the other side of Hoover Dam and the Kentarians are super weak, we're gonna go and cut straight to when we're about to enter the Legate's camp. Our Securitron took a little bit of a beating here, but hopefully he can make it at least past the first Praetorian. Gonna go ahead and come up like we're partying over at the Gomorrah as we get ready to take on the first Praetorian. VATS mode would help here, but since Benny canonically doesn't have a Pit-Boy, no VATS, and you can see that on the top left-hand side of the screen that I have not used VATS mode a single time this run. It's unfortunate that we did lose our Securitron pal here, because as this Praetorian's coming by, we're able to take him out, but not before taking a solid haymaker to the face. All said and done, our Stealth Boy is about to become undone, but not a big deal. Because we're right by the Legate, we're gonna go ahead and pop open the non-existent Pit-Boy backpack thingamajig. Get a Meeting People's magazine to boost our speech to 100. And we'll go and start pawing through these options here, and you're gonna notice we're paused right here. Ah, gotcha. Raza Midlothian Odyssey, master of the fake out. No, we're gonna fight Lanius 1v1.
I shall make a cape of your skin, and your skull, it shall sit by my side. Mute, watching as my armies march west. I shall honor your last words and face you alone as you request. No man will say I refused your challenge.
That was like some final boss anime stuff right there, leveling up after that little comeback from Lanius. I got hit there because I was trying not to laugh too hard. But yeah, no Stonewall, no Super Slam, and only one Turbo. This should be interesting. Now, for this one-on-one to occur, as you guys saw, it was a Karma check combined with speech of an 80 or higher. What was really cool is that I actually maintained our evil karma throughout the course of this playthrough. You might have noticed that we got Walker of the Mojave 45 out of 50. Yeah, besides the Powder Gangers at Goodsprings and the 2 side quests at the Mojave Outpost, oh, and Aunt Misbehavin', did no other side quests throughout the course of this run. Now, the trick against Lanius here is as he goes for his overhead swing, you back up just a bit. Takes a while to learn the reach of his blade to the east. But if he misses you, that leaves him wide open for just a sec so you can start pumping some bullets into him. And as you can see, we're not doing too much damage, although we are able to chip him down as we are going through a ton of supplies to try and take this guy down. This is without a doubt the toughest battle Legate Lanius has given us so far. But as tough as he's been up to this point, little does he realize that the game was, in fact, rigged from the start. I mean, Benny did kill his former chieftain who was bigger and stronger than him, so Legate Lanius, yeah, no problem. As for General Oliver, I'm gonna go ahead and let him go, and let's go and explore some speech options you might not be privy to, and sometimes I forget they're here too. Just watching Benny absolutely flex over General Oliver, being like, oh yeah, I could just send the boomers out west. That sound good to you? Man, our boy made off with everything in this run. He got the Platinum chip, he took out Mr. House, he took out Courier 6, and he killed Legate Lanius in single combat. What a heck of a way to end 2024 on, man. That was awesome. I really hope you guys enjoyed that run too, and hope you guys have enjoyed your stay here at Midlothian Odyssey here in 2024. Here's to an even better 2025, as on screen there are some runs that you can look forward to. I'm looking forward to that Fallout New Vegas run in general, though that's gonna take a hot minute. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. See ya in 2025.